Teachers, what's the pettiest thing a parent has complained about? Story 1. The color of red pen I use. Apparently, it's too dark of a red to be considered red, and if I can't do my job properly using the correct red, am unqualified to teach EditTIL. Children are delicate creatures in other countries and are scared by colors. Story 2. Back when I used to teach, I had a parent once complain that my classroom was too quiet, and as a consequence, her daughter and her peers got too much work done, and they felt it was bad for their daughter's brain to be learning so much so quickly. Story 3. I had a parent complain that her kid was wearing a tight spaghetti strap tank top. Because the kid got hot and took off her sweater, she yelled at me for what she dressed her kid in. Edit, how the heck did I get gold? Thank you, stranger. Story 4. The bottom of a T. She wanted me to force her daughter to write the letter T as it appears in typing. She scheduled a PDA meeting about it. Edit, I arrived at work to find that Reddit is supporting me as I deal with the fallout of this crisis. Thanks, everyone. Story 5. Parents once complained that I let my 7th grade intermediate ESL students read a story that was a whole 22 pages long with images for their book report. They had more than a month to read. It was an edited copy for their level. Story 6. A parent called to complain that I hadn't put her daughter's late homework into the gradebook yet. I told her I can't put the homework in the gradebook until she actually turns it in. This parent just kept asking me why I hadn't put it in. I kept replying with I have nothing to put in. She hasn't given it to me. Finally, the call ended with URG. Some people just don't know how to do their jobs. Edit, for everyone saying I should just put in a 0. I would have if I had been allowed to. The school did not allow teachers to put in 0s for assignments until the end of the semester. So instead, I called parents every time there was an incomplete assignment and reminded them that it would become a 0 in a few weeks. Occasionally, I would put in a 0 for a few days to scare a kid into getting an assignment done, but only if I knew it would work. Story 7. My brother is a high school teacher. He had one kid that was early accepted into the college of his choice and decided that his entire senior year could then be the fall year. My brother had multiple conversations with the parents throughout the year about the fact that student was failing, as did other teachers. Parents seemed very unconcerned by this. The day before classes ended, my brother runs into the father out in public, and the father says to him, I am very concerned about the students. Really, I think his school performance this year doesn't bode well for how he will do in college. My brother, your son, is not going to college. He has to repeat at least 5 classes this year in order to get his diploma. Father, no, he's fine. He is already accepted. My brother, it's all conditional, without his high school diploma, which we've been telling you all year he's not going to get. He can't get in. The father, who has a college degree himself, was apparently shocked by this news, and they promptly went right to the school board, trying to get his entire senior waive because he was obviously such a strong student that a school accepted him on early admission. School board did not agree. Story 8. For silly fun, at the end of the term, I showed an episode of Mr. Bean. He was washing his clothes and pulled a dress out accidentally and put it on. That is what they were mad at, that I was encouraging cross-dressing. They were seniors in high school. Story 9. I had a screaming parent in my office because of a marginal comment I made on an essay that had received a grade of 95, submitted by a student who was top of the class. The comment said, and I'm paraphrasing here, this argument is unworthy of you. Don't be lazy, find better sources, and don't hang your argument on idle assertions. The parent claimed I had called her daughter lazy, idle, fat, suicidal, and unworthy of being a student at institution. She actually thought I was threatening to have her expelled, or at least barred from grad school. The best part, the girl was a second-year undergraduate. The next best part, it was an open office, and my colleagues were openly mocking her the entire time. I just sat there and said nothing. I miss those guys. Edit, just to be clear, because of potential pronoun confusion. The female student had no problem with the comment, was absolutely mortified by what her mother had done, and seriously concerned that the interference would damage her academic career. I just laughed and told her I was even more impressed that Shed emerged intelligent and sane from a home environment like that. Then asked if she needed any letters of reference. She did, and she got them. Her mother got a vaguely insulting note and a small tray of milk chocolates. Story 10. I have my students wash their hands before lunch, apparently, and being unrealistic with my expectations. Dawn, my cousin who teaches kindergarten, had a parent complain to the principal that she was irresponsible for being selfish enough to have a baby and take maternity leave before the end of the school year. Story 11. That her child got lice in elementary school. Apparently, it was all my fault that her child got infected. This same parent complained to me that I was calling her child by a shortened version of her name that the child asked me to use instead of her full name. I'm sure I have more, but those are just from this year. Edit, I remember something that goes along with the lice part of the story. After they got the lice out, the mom was adamant that her daughter not be hugged by anyone or that she shouldn't get too close, but never specified what too close actually was for me to attempt to enforce to the other kids so that she does not get infected again. This is first grade. Trying to keep kids away from each other is like herding cats. Story 12, my mother's a high school teacher. This is one of her stories. This kid turns 18, joins the military, mother goes ballistic, storms into the school, yelling at everyone, well, just the staff, saying this is all the school's fault, that he was corrupted into joining and things like that. Demands to talk to the kid's teacher, my mom. My mom says this seems like a talk you should be having with your kid. Not me. Lady goes ballistic again. My mom has to call the AP to her out of the building after hearing that. No wonder the kid wanted to join right after high school. Story 13, one of my students was the child of a coworker. Both were huge pains, and the coworker mother stormed into the class after school to complain that her son had earned a C or B. Can't remember, on a homework assignment the week before. She was upset that I hadn't contacted her. I explained that I always immediately entered grades into a system that parents had access to online. Parents could view grades, the school calendar, etc. The school employee who maintained the site her, so she knew how to use it. Coworker mother demanded that I contact her personally whenever her son made less than an A, and got upset when I said that I wouldn't. I told her I didn't have the time. I had the work of 2 teachers. An email wouldn't take long for me to send, but I didn't want to give myself yet another thing to remember, then risk getting chewed out for forgetting, and risk all the other parents wanting the same useless courtesy. I said I'd contact her if I noticed a trend of slipping grades, which wasn't the issue with her son. His grades were great overall. This pissed her off to no end. I said that accessing the site took the same number of clicks it'd take to access an email about the grade, so there was no point. She cried, yelled, and kept pushing and threatened to take this to the principal, who was her best friend. I finally said that if I could keep track of all the grades for the 3 grade levels I taught, surely she could handle keeping track of grades for one kid, just one incident of many with my beady-eyed of a coworker. Story 14, that I gave their child a detention for saying something foul in Spanish. I guess they just didn't like this gringo calling their child out for the stuff they were saying. Edit admins caved to the parents. I was less than amused. Story 15, I witnessed a parent complaining at the end of a primary school concert that it wasn't fair that their child had no discernible musical talent, and that the school should stop giving instrument lessons to the kids who were keen or talented. I've never seen a music teacher genuinely speechless for so long. Story 16, a music student of mine refused to sing one of her lessons in class because she had difficulty reading her bass clef. Her parents came to complain that it's not fair in singling their daughter out, because how is she supposed to know this clef? Well, this is her final year and solved, so. Story 17, the school my wife teaches at a school that uses Class Dojo. It does a lot of different things, but it is essentially a behavioral control system. She can give kids points for doing the right thing, and can take away points if they do the wrong thing. The parents who sign up for notifications get them sent straight to their phone or computer. She had one student this year who was refusing to do work and was being disrespectful to the student teacher. She was basically telling the student teacher that she wasn't really a teacher and that she, the student, didn't have to listen to her, the student teacher. My wife overheard what was going on and took away a point for disrespect. The girl's parents came in the next day, and the dad was demanding that my wife change the disrespectful point. He didn't mind that his daughter lost a point, but he was pissed off that she lost a point for being disrespectful. He told her that a 7-year-old isn't capable of disrespect, and insisted that this was going to ruin her chances at getting into Stanford because they would see her as a disrespectful person. My wife explained that this information is simply a way to track behavior and communicate with the parents. It has nothing to do with a permanent record. It's just an app. The dad continued to demand that it be changed, and my wife eventually relented. She changed it to a refusal to work point instead, and not sure if Stanford thinks being lazy is better than being disrespectful, but the dad seemed to think so. Edit, my wife said that the correct term is behavioral management, not behavioral control. Story 18, when I was in middle school, I got something like 8 or 9 hours of detention for some stupid thing I did. My mom kept telling the teacher it was not enough, and he should increase my detention time. During one whole month that I know of, I still pity him. Story 19, I dread awards day. As an elementary school teacher, I had a parent complain that her child did not get an academic award. I made sure that every child got something, whether it be for an academic subject like reading, writing, math, social studies, science, or for their awesome personality. I can't remember what her child got, but it was one of these personality awards. He was a very cheerful, sweet kid, but she said that this award sent the message that academics weren't important or that he wasn't smart. With over 120 kids in that grade level, it was impossible to give everyone an academic award. He had a chance to win an academic award if you read over a certain amount of books. You win a reading award, but you actually had to keep track of that at home and turn the paper back into me, which he did not. So They'll just say that wasn't the first time she had complained about something petty that year. Story 28 parent once went to the school district over the fact that I wouldn't let her come into my class because she wanted to give her daughter a bracelet that would have completed her outfit. This was back when I taught 3rd grade. Story 21, I was teaching 7th and 8th grade at a Catholic school, and a group of moms came in and complained that their sons were distracted by and that I needed to do something about it. For the record, my teaching wardrobe is variations of this most awkward meeting ever. Story 22, I sent home a progress report for the kid to get signed. Get the progress report back, and the parent wants to know if their child can get extra credit for the 3 grades that she got that were under an 85. The kid's overall grade was a 93. No, she cannot receive extra credit. I gotta grade that. We're on a 10-point grade scale. Her GPA is as high as it's gonna get. That being said, the kid is a joy to teach, and she sometimes brings me snacks. Story 23, a parent complained to a teacher when their child fell on the playground and the clothes got muddy and scratched up. They wanted the school to pay for new clothing. Edit, they fell on the pavement, which had mud on it since it rained out the day before. The child also didn't hurt themselves, just got the clothing dirty and scratched a bit when he fell. Story 24, I'm sure that this isn't the place for this, but I think many would enjoy. I was in 3rd grade, and the principal called my mother in for a meeting to discuss my rude behavior. My mother was told stories of me being mean to other students, frequenting the office due to disciple. You get the idea? My mother was blindsided and wanted to get to the bottom of it right away. She was surprised that she was just hearing about this then, and asked if they could include my 3rd grade teacher in the conversation to provide clarity. The principal agreed, and Mrs. Hobson came on down. Mrs. Hobson was more taken aback than my mother was. She proceeded to tell her boss that she had never sent Lil Bob to the office, and I have never acted like that, and she was clueless to where these stories were coming from. This is all being said as I'm sitting in the back of the principal's office. Drum roll. Well, if it wasn't him, then it must have been a student that looks just like him. The principal. Story 25, not a teacher, but we parents were gathered for a Meet the Teacher session in our child's classroom. One parent complained that the staff in the lunch hall were not standing over her precious spawn while it ate its lunch to make sure it had a nutritious, balanced lunch at school that would set it up for the afternoon to come. The teacher kind of shrugged and said that he would see what he could do. Another parent then chimed in saying that it was completely inappropriate for staff to stand over the kids while they ate their lunch, as this was tantamount to force-feeding them, which would lead to eating disorders. Then the same eating disorder parent complained that the class teacher was not accompanying her precious spawn to its music lesson. The music department is a 5 or 6-minute walk at a child's pace through the school campus. This mother expected the teacher to accompany her child to the music school and then go pick the child up at the end of the lesson. I started muttering about the invisible lions roaming the campus, mauling the poor, unsuspecting 8-year-olds on their way from piano lessons. Story 26, I had a girl in an honors class. She earned a B. Mother asked if she could be bumped up in cases where it's pretty darn close to an A. I consider it, but she was at the low end of a B. At the semester, she changes classes and is now in the same class with a different teacher. She didn't ask to be transferred. That's just how her schedule happened to work out. I get an email 2 months later from the parent telling me how much better the review packets are that the other teacher gives and how the other teacher spreads apart the test dates to be more comfortable for the students, and that the student was doing so much better in the other class. She asked again if I could change the grade to an A. Those would be valid criticisms if it were not for the fact that I give the exact same reviews as the other teacher, and we schedule tests on the exact same day. And on top of that, I asked what the student currently had. Story 27, our first son had a teacher in 1st grade who would always write, "Keep on trucking," on all my kids' assignments, and I know this was meant to be some words of encouragement because my smart kid was acing all these dumb little assignments, but seriously, every single paper he got back said, "Keep on trucking," at the top with the apostrophe, just like that. And my son asked me what that was, and I had to explain that it's like this little mark you put when you write to make the word sound different. And honestly, and I'm not an English expert by any means, I don't think I explained it very well, and the whole situation was very uncomfortable, because you think a 1st grade teacher would at least write "keep on trucking" with a G in there, because kids at that age aren't ready for apostrophes. But honestly, the worst part was the phrase itself, because then after a while, my kid is super interested in trucks and trucking, and I'm sitting at home watching my kid watch shows about trucks. And these are the boring shows too. Not the ones where the trucks are cartoons that talk and joke around, because those shows would actually be all right. But these shows are like documentaries about what it means to be a truck driver. And when I look back on the whole thing, I really should have confronted the teacher before it got that far. Story 28, not a teacher, but witnessed this exchange between another parent and the teacher of my daughter's preschool. Before Christmas, the kids were making gingerbread-style houses, but using frosting and graham crackers. One mom was put out that the teacher requested an entire box of graham crackers and was trying to negotiate exactly how many graham crackers were needed. The teacher was trying to explain that they can break and the kids can have a hard time, and extra would be sent home, but this mom acted like the teacher was trying to extort these graham crackers for her personal gain. It was absurd. And just to be clear, this isn't a school in a poor area where buying a $2 box of graham crackers should really ruin anyone's grocery budget or be a strain. Story 29, I once had a parent accuse me and the admins of a conspiracy against her daughter. I had her in my class last period, and she always skipped, so I always marked her absent. She couldn't believe that her precious snowflake could be skipping. Story 30, I'm a preschool teacher, and there's a parent who wanted to bump her kid up because she was advanced because she had a September birthday. She was not advanced, she was on level. She got mad because we did move her up, and she only came once a week, but was mad because she wasn't learning quick enough. Story 31, in my old school, a parent complained to the principal that their child's punishment was too severe because when he exposed himself in class, it was just the berries and not the twig. Story 32, not me, but my mom. She's a reception teacher kindergarten in the U.S., I think, so my mom had been running with the theme of bears for a few weeks. Think reading Goldilocks in story time, finger painting bears, teddy bear show, until etc. Now for this show until one child brought in his toothless dragon cuddly toy, which he brings to every show until, not a teddy, but whatever. As a big finale, she decided to do a teddy bear picnic outside on the playground where each child would bring in their own teddy bear or borrow one from the classroom. Because this child always brings his dragon, my mom asked him to bring a bear instead of a dragon. Because, it's a teddy bear picnic, not a dragon picnic. The kid ended up bringing both a teddy and the dragon, and my compromise by putting the dragon on a shelf so he could watch the teddy bear picnic. All went seemingly well. Until a few days later, she was talking to a coworker about how she compromised with the dragon on the shelf. The coworker told my mom that she's actually heard this before on Mom's Net. If you don't know what this is, it's a forum site for British moms. Anyway, it turns out that this dragon kid's mom has posted on their story about how an evil teacher my mom, who is a genuinely lovely person, had insisted her poor little son couldn't bring his dragon teddy to the teddy bear picnic. The thread has over 100 replies, mostly swearing at my mom, saying she's an awful teacher, should lose her job. It's actually hilarious how aggressive all these moms with too much time can be. Story 33, that I was eating too many Chick-fil-A nuggets at the Christmas party. It was only my third one, and all the kids were already served. You were just hoarding them over here and not letting the kids have any more. And I'm starving, let me have a nugget, dang it. Story 34, my sister is a teacher, and she always has good parent stories. A parent complained about the kids sitting in reverse alphabetical order ZA. Instead of AZ, their daughter shouldn't have to sit in the back of the room. A parent complained about midterm grades getting posted right before the kids had a week off for spring break. Their son had done poorly, and now it looks like they're rewarding him by taking him to Disney. A parent complained about their daughter not being allowed to get a copy of the midterm test to take it home because they were going to be spending 2 weeks in Aruba. My daughter won't cheat. A parent was upset that they couldn't have Uber Eats deliver their son lunch every day. You don't expect him to eat Obama food. The letters that come from the administration office all are addressed to the parents or guardians of then the student's name. One woman wanted hers changed to the parent because she was getting divorced. One complained the homework load was overwhelming. The kids had been assigned one project that they had 3 weeks to finish and were given 10 minutes at the end of each class to do it. The project was to make a trifold pamphlet about the dangers of a drug. Most kids finished it in 2 days. Story 35, not a parent, but a college student told me she deserves to get rounded up to an A now. She had a lot of absences, never participated in class discussions, and didn't improve at all over the course of the semester. Oh, and she also had an 84, 5 points away from rounding range. When she wasn't rounded up, she sent an email saying she did not care about the class. She cares about getting into medical school, a dream that I have now ruined. She signed the email, your grace will be rewarded. Karma. Story 36, a parent from a rival school once complained to my teacher that I was too big to be playing 6th grade basketball. Must have been held back a few years, were her exact words. Joke's on her, though. The teacher was my mom and promptly informed her that I was the youngest kid in my class by several months. I just had a tall father and a very early series of growth spurts. Story 37, not a teacher, but in high school, my basketball coach was also one of my teachers. After the season was over, we had our award ceremony. One dad was upset that his daughter didn't win the MVP award. She didn't deserve it. She could barely get the ball past half court most of the time. Anyway, after the ceremony was over, The dad asked to meet with Coach alone. Coach asks everyone to leave the room. After the door closes, we heard a loud bang. The dad came out and left. He ended up throwing a chair at the coach because he didn't give his daughter the MVP award. She was trash. Coach handled it like a champ, though. Story 38, I did a class Secret Santa with my choir. Before they were allowed to draw names, they had to bring back a signed form from parents promising that they will actually buy the other child a gift. This is 8th grade. One girl didn't buy a gift. I called the parents twice. Both times a mother told me in a worried voice that didn't inspire confidence that yes, of course she would get a gift, etc. She never did. So one kid in the class who signed up never got a gift. Her mother went absolutely ballistic. Called my principal, insisted that we had to make this parent go get her child a gift. I had already planned to go out and buy her child a gift with my own meager salary, but she told me I wasn't allowed to do so because I had to make this other parent do it. I told her I cannot drive to this other parent's house, drag her to the mall, and force her to buy a gift. I simply cans out of my hands, my admin backed me up. She continued to rail at me for another week. I stopped doing Secret Santa after that. Not a teacher, but I spent the better part of a few years working for a company that put filmmakers in elementary schools to teach film. This company was the worst, sent us in with outdated equipment, and above all valued the idea of do whatever it takes to make sure the company made money, even if kids didn't learn much or you have to tell some lies. I was a genuinely nice person to the kids and teachers and got requested a lot because of how much knowledge I seemed to have. Was also a working filmmaker, and most of their employees were people without any film background. The unfortunate thing was that the company organizers would sell day-long lessons like claymation to GR1 classes, which was always a really bad day guaranteed at that age. Kids just want to play with the clay rather than make an animation. And at that age, a lot of parents would love to come in as help. But of course that meant they never left their own child's side, and because they considered themselves to be smart, not pay attention to the lesson on how claymation or the programs the kids will be using worked. So we had very controlling parents not let their own kids do the work. When they didn't know how to do the work themselves, they would also get annoyed when I didn't drop everything I was doing, including helping other kids, to help theirs. This was my favorite scenario. When parents would take over their own kid's project, fail miserably at it, and then try to blame me for not delivering a good lesson. This happened often. Parents would demand that I stayed in on my lunch to walk them through step by step the entire 45-minute lesson I give in the mornings. The parents would say things like, as a teacher, it's your duty, etc. These were always the parents who would be talking through the lesson as I taught. I had one parent show up halfway through the day and didn't let their kid progress until they themselves understood everything. So they stopped their kid from working so I could give them a private lesson. I took joy in saying, I'm not a teacher. If you have an issue with me, you can call the company that pays me while I go grab a coffee, and then walked out of the classroom. I knew that the company saw me as someone who brought in business for them. And anyone complaining about me usually had some unjustified reason or another. This isn't me thinking too highly of myself. I was just a pleasant person within the schools until someone was being to me. Even then, I'd still smile. The job I worked was a weird one. I was always reminded that I wasn't a teacher at the school. I didn't get the same breaks as them during the day. I got paid nowhere near as well as the teachers in Ontario, Canada, and most days I was brought in as a babysitter with a mild lesson play because a teacher needed a day of marking. I respected teachers, but they didn't respect me. The second I walked through the door lugging a bunch of broken MacBooks from 2006 company's fault, they tuned out and told me to holler if I needed any help. So I enjoyed the moments when I got to say to a parent, or even one of the kids, I'm not the teacher. I'd also like to mention that if I ever saw a kid who was trying really hard but was genuinely having difficulty, I always went above and beyond to help. There was a reason why I was doing this in the first place. I wasn't getting paid well by the company, but there was a few of us who worked for them and tried our best to teach the basics of film and animation, because at that age we never had anything like that when growing up. Edit TLDR. As a filmmaker, I used to teach film workshops in schools for a bad company and was treated poorly. Parents and teachers like to point out that I wasn't actually a teacher, just some guy working a job. When parents came in to help their 6 to 7-year-old kids do the workshops, they would end up sabotaging their own kids' work because they didn't pay attention to my lesson when they demanded I give them extra attention on my own time, as it was my duty as a teacher. I'd remind them I wasn't a teacher and go grab my lunch. Story 39, my mom was accused of doing witchcraft in the classroom when she told her kid to chant to make a snow day. The chant can only be done if snow is in the forecast and the students get all their homework done. The chant is salami, salami bologna, let it snow. She just wanted her kids to do their homework. Story 40, children were not allowed grapes in my class last year as a result of some unfortunate choking incidents. The mother of a boy, who we shall name Toby, complained about this as it was her boy's favorite fruit. She went so far as to smuggle them into the bottom of his water bottle in a secret compartment. She made her son and daughter 2 years older into smugglers. Joke's on her, though, as there's an ongoing juice smuggling epidemic, so we spotted them straight away. Story 41, not me. My wife is a teacher, had a parent complain that her kid's second grade, 7 years old, wasn't placed in the advanced math group, and therefore wouldn't get into advanced classes in high school, and therefore wouldn't get into a good college. Math groups are changed every 2 to 3 weeks and are assigned specifically due to a pretest the kids take to show their knowledge of the subject. Story 42, she packed him a lunchbox and gave strict orders that he is not allowed to eat school lunch due to stomach issues. It was 4-tater day, equivalent of greasy tater tots, greasy cheese, and hamburger meat. He wanted one, and his teacher wouldn't let him do to mother's instruction. His mother complained that we didn't let him get something from the lunch line. Story 43, we had arranged a PJ day to raise money for charity. Stated that kids couldn't wear onesies because the very young children struggle with them when going to the toilet. The next morning, this one parent came up to me in the playground and started complaining to me because I had completely ruined it for her daughter. She tried telling me that it is unfair her daughter can't wear onesies even though she wouldn't need help, and I should just let her wear it anyway. I then pointed out how it wouldn't be fair on the other children if we just let her child come in a onesie, to which she replied, so. Story 44. This wasn't so much petty as just crazy expectations. A grandfather threatened to end his child's enrollment at our training center if his English wasn't conversational by the end of the semester. The child was 3 and couldn't even speak in complete sentences in his own language. He, of course, was not fluent 3 months later, 24 hours worth of class. So they quit. Story 45, I refused to push the review, test, and subsequent lessons after the test back because her parents wanted to take her out of school for a week to go on vacation. This was about 2 weeks after the winter break. Mind you, only have so much time to teach the entirety of World War I. They couldn't wrap their head around it and kept saying that I was trying to make it, so their kid failed. Story 46, not drawing little doodles on their kindergartner's homework after correcting it. My coworker does this, and I don't. I don't give stickers either unless they earn them. Your little Saya-chan wants an Elsa sticker. She better do her ABC practice then. Story 47, not a teacher, but I once was at a high school audition for the cheerleading squad, and a group of mothers were making fun of the other kids, trying out in front of the other parent during their auditions. Not as much petty as hateful. Story 48, my sister is a high school teacher, and she told me this wild story once. A kid who was often a troublemaker stole a computer from the school and then ran away from home for a few days. She doesn't teach in a very good neighborhood, so these stories are common. After about a week, the kid came back, and the faculty sent him to the principal's office. They were trying to get the kid to admit he stole the laptop because they knew he did, but had no evidence to press charges. Once the kid goes home at the end of the day, the kid tells his dad that during his meeting with principal, that the principal beat him. The dad is one of those parents that believes their child is perfect, so he goes to the school furious and doesn't believe a word from the faculty. I'm pretty sure it ended up with the kid getting expelled for something else he did a few months later, but still a crazy story. Story 49, a parent complained to me that her daughter was upset when I said, I'm so happy you're here. We miss you while you were sick because I didn't smile while saying it. Story 50, I had a parent rage at me because her son wanted to use pink tissue paper on his art project. She thought I should have made him use a more appropriate color for boys. Story 51, oh, I'm late, but why do I have some good ones? Parents have both been teaching high school for 25 years, and I'm in my first year of teaching now, and boy do we have great parent stories. Harry's a good one from right before break. Kid gets caught plagiarizing the entire essay. His GF had written it the year before and turned it into Turnitin, and he does the same, so it comes back as 100 plagiarized obviously. Teacher is having a meeting with the parent and the kid, and the whole time mom is silent, looking around the room, and such. The teacher is asking the kid why he didn't even bother to change a little bit during all the class time. They had to work on it. I was just playing on my phone. The meeting is about to end when the mom says the one line we all know is never going to end. Well, you know what? I think the real problem is here. There's too much demonic symbolism in this classroom. The devil has distracted my son and made him plagiarize. She was referring to a Dia de los Muertos poster in the room.